Here.
Hello and welcome to the Abundology podcast. Today I'm talking with my friend Jamie Bulrice about Akashic Records. And so I'm excited about this because I don't think a lot of people even know anything about the records.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were just had a wonderful lunch, and you were saying that access to the records hasn't even been around for what, like 30 years or so. Okay, so can you explain a little bit what we're talking about? What the records are and the access to them and all that stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting
It's fun
to be able to share about the Akashic Records. So yes, the Akashic Records are a dimension of consciousness that hold a vibrational archive of every soul on its journey. So basically, they're energetic records that comprise of any thoughts, feelings, or actions, or situation or circumstance that has ever played out or taken place within any soul's existence. So it's basically the soul's blueprint. And if you kind of think about it as like a kind of a virtual library, where it's a library of books where you could just reach down, pull out a book in any type of scenario, and that book is a part of your past or maybe probable future. So
Oh, that's cool. So, you've done a reading for me, and that's why you're here, is because it was so wonderful and I got so much great information out of
nice,
it.
awesome,
But,
nice.
but with that, then, can you tell in the records people's previous lifetimes, then, of what they have gone through? Yes. So, yes.
Yes, yeah, for sure. There's definitely a component to the records where you could access past lives or concurrent lives, and then probable futures. We live in a free will, a corner of the universe. So the records are not they're not very good for like divination and like prediction. So they're not like psychic readings where the psychic, or the person giving the reading doesn't want to have information, like they don't want extra information to like impact the reading.
Right.
The Akashic Records are very much about they're very conversational, and they're very much about causes and conditions and kind of getting to the root cause of something. So they could really be applied really in honestly almost any arena of life in general. One of them being past lives. You can ask questions about your health, career, life purposes, and unwanted ancestral patterns, familial relationships, all kinds of things, really. Really just the things that don't really glean very much from the records are yes and no questions and when questions. But
Oh, I know. I tried a couple win questions, and yeah.
we're like,
You did,
no.
but you did give me some general guidance, so that was nice.
Right.
But I want to know the date and the time.
Yeah, exactly,
Exactly.
Right.
So, how have you found over reading the records where abundance shows up, or perhaps abundance blocks, or is there do we come into a lifetime with our abundance pattern for that lifetime, or is it just depend on a bunch of different things?
It's a good question. Well, the records can show, really abundance is, we sort of talked a little bit about this previously, but abundance is, I think that could be kind of a big word.
Yes.
I think it packs a punch, for a lot of people, and I kind of have the personal belief and philosophy, and then this also kind of dovetails with the Akashic Records that, abundance is very much a mindset.
Yes.
So having, me sitting here in this beautiful space and having a podcast interview with you on a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of fall,
After we had a great, fabulous
after
lunch.
we had an amazing lunch, is like, what an abundant experience this is.
Yes.
You and I even just sitting and having lunch, what an abundant experience that was. So, so I think, personally, I think that a lot of, and myself included, God knows I have days where I'm not feeling like super rich and abundant, so I think that it would be helpful from, to start to kind of look at mindsets and look at ideas around what abundance is. And, to me, what the definition of abundance is just the ability to do what you need to do when you need to do it. So am I able to, pay my mortgage this month? Wow, that's abundance.
Yes.
Am I able to hop on, am I able to call a friend to go see a movie? That's abundance.
Yes.
Right?
We get so focused in on the money aspect of abundance and that thinking, old-fashioned thinking, that if you have the money, if the money's there, then the
Right.
rest of life will just magically work its way out.
Exactly. right.
Which I've been fortunate enough in my life to have been bound around a bunch of ultra rich people, and that is not the case. Let me tell you.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it does, their problems are still there. Their
Yeah.
mindset's still there. So you can be abundant no matter how much money you have or don't have in your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. And specifically, the way that the Akashic Records can help you with regards to abundance is they can help you find the root cause and condition of a situation. So, oftentimes, what I notice in my clients and myself is if I'm having any kind of particular issue, it's because I have a blockage there, and I have I've got something blocked. So in an Akashic record reading, you can go into your records and you can find the root cause of what that blockage is, and you could start. And merely just by being in your records, healing automatically just begins to happen because you're in the Akashic field and it's in a light grid. And once you're in that space, movement just starts to happen, which kind of harkens back to what you said in the beginning of our conversation of it's only been in the last 30 to 40 years that as a species, really, we've been able to access the Akashic Records in a conscious way.
Well, I'm going to digress a little bit here
Yeah.
because I can. Because I'm abundant
Darn
enough to
tootin'.
talk about whatever I
Yeah,
want to
right.
on the podcast.
Exactly.
So this is fascinating to me that it's only been about 30 years because I feel like right now consciousness is really speeding up. Along with technology, the technology's doubling every 18 months or whatever it is now. It's probably sooner than that now. But it feels like consciousness is kind of on this same trajectory. That we now 30 years ago we had access to this information, and we're at that point in our evolution where we actually get to choose as a species how we're going to evolve.
Right.
And so it's kind of a really cool time for us
sure,
to be these
for
energetic beings on this planet.
Absolutely, right? And we chose to be here because it was an exciting time to be here on this planet for
Yes.
all this change and this acceleration that's been going on, right?
Yes.
So Edgar Casey is one of the first people who was known to have access to the Akashic Records, and he's known as the sleeping prophet, but he wouldn't do it in a conscious way. He would do it in a trance state.
Okay.
So he was a medical intuitive, basically. And he would help his patients via the Akashic Records and help them heal whatever ailment they had. But he didn't do it consciously, so it's only been in this last period of time that we've been able to access it consciously. Now, not everyone necessarily feels drawn to the Akashic Records, so this is interesting. I've witnessed this just being a reader and people talking to me about what the Akashic Records are. Like some people they're like, what? The it's just like, it kind of rings a bell for them.
Yeah.
Other times they're just like, meh, psh, like just nothing, so it's kind of one or the other,
Yeah.
it is kind of black and white in terms of like if someone's kind of drawn to them or not. But the biggest, they're just a spiritual resource, and the biggest tool that they provide is being able to look at a problem or a situation and get to the root cause of it, and from your soul's perspective. So when you're in the Akashic Records, you're looking at every single situation from the level of your soul.
Wow.
So versus like
Yes.
you and I sitting here not being in our
Yes.
records and just from like
Our ego standpoint,
our
or
ego
yeah,
standpoint,
exactly.
which can be fear based. It could be, it holds us back in a lot of ways, right?
Which goes right back to the abundance.
Exactly.
That the blocks of the abundance. So while you're in the records, then just like you said, just the fact of going in there starts to remove the blocks,
It starts to heal them.
start to heal them,
And uncover it, because we start to, if you recall in your reading, I asked you a lot of questions, and part of the process of asking you questions is you start to mine, you do a little splunking around like how you feel about a situation, and so that sort of helps movement, because it brings to light sort of how you're feeling, this excavation process. And then, yes, once you're in the Akashic field and the light grid, it starts to quicken, and it starts to move quickly, and things start to shift quickly. So, and then that starts to remove blockages. So, if I have this mindset, let's just say I want to lose weight, there is another timeline, kind of another parallel timeline that that already exists, that is already a Jamie that is, thinner, has more energy, eats more healthy, feels really awesome in my body, feels amazing in my clothes, feels super, super awesome and confident, can wear whatever I want to wear. This already exists.
Yeah,
It's
I
already
love this
there.
idea. I love this idea, especially from the quantum physics that we've learned, even in the last decade, about unlimited timelines. Where, there's a timeline where right now I'm living in South America. There's a timeline, where I'm skinny Renee in the bikini on the beach.
Right.
Another timeline where I'm sick. So
Sure,
these
sure.
unlimited timelines is fascinating to me about the ability to switch to another timeline.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and there's several ways I think you could do it. I mean, I'm certainly not a proficient or a master at this by any means, and this is an idea that I've been exploring the last like three or 4 years or so. But literally, they say sometimes like if you get a deja vu, that could be another timeline.
Yes.
That
Yes.
you're currently simultaneously living out right now. But if you just think about it, so let's say there's many things. It could be money, it could be losing weight, it could be getting a job, it could be bringing a relationship to your life, it could be any kind of thing, but I'm just going to choose losing weight, because that's a real situation for me personally.
Yeah.
So if I can imagine that timeline where I'm all those those things that I mentioned, I'm ostensibly living it, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I'm already in it.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm imagining it, I'm already in it. Right. So the Akashic Records kind of help sort of uncover and kind of remove blockages to allow flow. And once those blockages are removed and the flow is there, and I'm in that timeline that we just talked about, that's abundance.
Yeah.
I mean, that's abundance right there.
It's amazing to me that we live in a time and place where we have these tools available.
Right.
I know, like
It's mind blowing.
it is mind blowing, really. Yes.
Just like you said in the last, technology is just mind blowing anyway. It's changed everything.
Yeah. Well, and then what we see right now in our politics and what's happening on our planet and, all of these things. And talking about the quickening, would you feel that right now? You feel like we're on the edge of, I don't even know, but edge of something big. Our next big shift, I believe, in consciousness that we're taking. So, and we're getting there, and it's speeding up quickly.
Well, and speaking of the political, landscape and environment, we obviously needed to see the underbelly of what's here. I mean,
We did.
I've always thought that personally is like, we didn't know.
I had no idea.
I had no idea that
Me
was
either.
so prevalent
Me
in our country. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. So we needed to see that like dichotomy and like that, this complete opposite of like, wow, okay, so this is real.
Yes. Yes, it's not somebody's old uncle, in
Yeah,
Arkansas that's
exactly.
a redneck, like this is half of our society
Right.
has beliefs
More.
like this. Yeah.
More.
I really had no idea. So I thought back, often like, what would our world look like if Hillary would have won? And you know what? Clearly, so many things would have been better, but we wouldn't have known this was here.
Right.
So now we have this opportunity to do this healing,
Absolutely.
you know, and
sure.
and address issues that clearly need to be addressed. There is inequality, you know. We the whole Me Too thing that came out.
Right.
I don't think that would have come out at the same time if Trump,
Yeah.
you know, hadn't been elected.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so this is a great point. So here we are shifting, which, you know, one of the worst things that's happened, frankly, to our country ever. I'm going to go to the ever.
Right, no, I'll go there.
Yeah,
I agree.
Ever.
Agreed.
But because we have abundant mindsets, here we are shifting it to, wow, look what we have learned from this experience.
Exactly. It's the mindset.
Exactly what you're talking about,
It's
the mindset. Yeah.
And it is. It's a mindset, right? So I think, like, again, the definition, or rather the word abundance, is it conjures like grandiose. It conjures like something really, really big, but
Like you're in the Vatican and it's
yeah,
abundant.
right.
Yes,
it's abundant, like, you know, endless abundance. Which it's a great word, but I think maybe redefining what that word is, you know, for
Agreed.
for myself and for people can be good, you know, like, and just like the little things, you know, I mean. So, and how does one create abundance in their life? You know, so one way I think that we can all create abundance in our life is following our highest excitement.
Absolutely.
At every moment, to the best of our ability, with no insistence on an outcome, and staying positive in the interim as
Yeah.
much as we can.
Yeah.
So if you're always constantly, you know, following your highest excitement, and that could mean, it doesn't have to mean go to the Vatican. It doesn't have to mean take a trip to Italy. It could mean make myself a cup of tea
Yes.
and sit and snuggle up on the couch and watch a movie.
Yes.
Right?
Or sit here and be quiet. You
Yeah.
know, like get away from everybody. Go take a walk. And we forget these things.
Totally.
Yes.
Right?
So to me, that's true abundance is I have the ability when I want to have a cup of tea and watch a movie.
For
I have
sure.
the ability when I want to take the dog out for a walk. Once again, my legs are working. You know,
Right,
I
have
live in
my
a
health.
place, I have my health. I have a dog. I do a dog that's good on a leash now too, you know.
Right?
So all of these thoughts and beliefs and how we train our mind to think lead right into that. I love it.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. I mean, so I think again, it goes back to that mindset. It goes back to the mindset of just like really appreciating just the really, really small, little, simple things, you know?
Yeah.
And like if you're always constantly, to the best of your ability, following your excitement, you know, that not only creates abundance, but it also starts to create synchronicity in your life. Things start to get synchronized. If you're constantly like kind of like, it creates a flow, and if you're going with the flow of your life and going with things that excite you, it's just going to be more of the same of that, and then you get to just see more synchronicities, which then brings in more of the flow and brings in more abundance and all of it.
That's exactly how it works.
It's exactly how it
Yeah.
works, right?
We were talking over lunch how I had gone to a couple networking groups and wonderful people, great groups. I had a wonderful time, but I knew immediately it was not for me. Like, you know, like, okay, thank you, but it's not this.
Right.
So knowing then also what isn't for you is a wonderful way to then know what is for you. Okay, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to go to the networking groups because it doesn't feel right.
Right.
So therefore, if I want, you know, to bring in more business, that would be the typical way you would go and network and meet people and bring business in that way. I got to find an alternative way that does feel good.
Right.
So it takes your focus then, okay, not working to what is working,
Right.
what does feel good, and following that.
And following what feels good, because then it'll course correct you automatically.
Automatically.
It's an automatically
Automatically.
course correcting mechanism. That's all negative experiences are. It's a course correcting mechanism. That's all they are.
I love that.
Right?
Yes, it's true.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, oh wow, okay.
And then the more
That's not
you
what I
follow that, you know, that clearly we have all had times in our lives where we don't want to get up and go to work that day, or we don't want to, you know, I really don't want to do this thing that we committed to doing,
Right.
you know,
Right.
but we do, we suck it up anyway, and we do
Sure.
it. But the more that you're able to follow I really want to do this, then once you said, like you said, then there's more things in your life. It becomes easier. Your intuition gets fine-tuned into exactly what you
get
want.
in that flow.
You get in that flow.
You get in that flow. It's true. And I get that it's real. And again, it's just about mindset. Like I get that you have a job and you have to go, you're the number one supporter of the family.
Yep.
You're in a situation where you're the only income of the family, and that is your responsibility.
Yep.
But you still, and in your mind, you still have to get up and go to this job that you don't like. Well, and I get that that's real. And things are changing now, and consciousness is heightened, and it's raising to where, you don't have to operate from that anymore, it's going to take a little bit of extra effort and a little extra push, and you're going to have to kind of find the motivation on your weekends, or in the evenings, when you're off, and pull in, say your prayers, whatever your wherever you find guidance. I call in my guides, call in what are your higher being or whatever, and start to ask for help. Because I get that it's really real for people that they feel like they have to be in the job that they're in because they don't have any other options and any other way out.
Absolutely. The thing is when you're in that though, and when you're in the mindset of I have been in this spot in my life.
Yeah, me too.
That sure. I have to get up, I have to go do this job because I have to feed my kids.
Right.
But when you're in that mindset, it is sometimes really, really tough to even believe that there's another way to do it.
Right.
So that's when you're talking about on the weekends and calling in help, and you have to. You have to.
You do.
Because you're not doing anybody, yourself, your family, anybody any good staying in energy like that isn't making you happy.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what's that stem from? So belief. So you have to have a belief somewhere. You have to find a belief somewhere inside of you that it can be different.
Exactly.
You have to tap into that belief somewhere that it can be different.
Yeah. Now, when we were talking at the beginning, you were saying you're opening up the records to the past lives and blocks, and you said probable futures. Mm-hmm. Too. So that's kind of cool. I learn stuff all the time. So when you see it then, and when you go into the records, do you see multiple possible futures? Tell me about that.
Well,
good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. Because I try not to, if someone starts to ask me questions about their future, because like I said, the records they're not a good predictive tool. They're not a predictive, they're not a divination tool. They're more about causes and conditions and getting to the root of an issue, and shifting your mindset around that kind of thing. But yes, I've certainly seen kind of probable outcomes, because again, it goes back to free will. So,
right.
we are in a free will, like I said, area of the universe. So there isn't any sort of final outcome, but there is kind of a probable outcome just given mindsets of an individual, past trending, kind of where their head's at, kind of where they are in their life,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about specifically something that came up in your reading, but I won't reveal that. But something.
Feel free. There's nothing in my reading that is off limits. Seriously.
You sure?
I'm giving you permission. Yeah.
Okay. So one of your questions was, meeting somebody.
Yes.
Right. So the kind of the sort of future I saw, and that was again, I saw you guys at a baseball game. Right?
Yay. I love baseball. Yay.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. I had no idea. Yeah, I mean, I saw you guys at a baseball game. He was tall, and he was kind of skinny and lanky, and a little bit younger, and he had lots of energy, and you guys were just sitting in the, the stadium, just at a baseball game that was jubilant, and it was fun, and it was, high energy, right? So that was kind of a glimpse into a possible, probable,
yes.
possibility.
Yes.
So that's what that looked like.
I like that. Yeah.
But nothing is, again, like a cast in stone or
It
set
is-
in stone,
yes.
because you could totally rewrite that for yourself in your future.
Absolutely.
At any moment. Right.
Yeah, and we forget that sometimes. You know, like when we're in the middle of something, like, oh, this is my karmic path this life. Oh, let's talk about karma,
Oh,
because that's
there you
always a
go.
good talk. But interesting how that just came up. But you know, this lifetime, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Da 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 da.
Right.
Where we forget that we are the ones in charge.
For sure.
You know,
for sure,
with
for
the
sure,
free
for
back
sure.
to the free will, that we're making the decisions. We can change at any moment. Yeah. So how does karma? I'm so fascinated to talk about this now. I didn't know this would come up. How do you see karma come up in the records? How do you look at it that way?
Well, I would say predominantly it comes up through ancestral patterns.
Okay.
So that one's like repeating patterns of behavior that have just gone through the timelines and the lineage of the family.
Okay.
So, gosh, I mean, it comes up all the time. Like, you know, and this is actually a good subject around money. Lots of people have some, you know, some really entrenched beliefs around money. I mean, we know this, right? That's a red hot topic everywhere, right? But there oftentimes, you know, we find that it's not even like our own belief systems, but it's been passed on through lineage. You know, it's been passed on through the way, you know, I watched my mom be with money, like as a kid growing up, and how her kind of scarcity mindset around it, and like then you watch the grandparents and you watch like just their whole environment around money, like how they are with it, you know. So that's a theme, you know, karmic theme around like sort of like, you know, just ancestral patterns. And so yeah, so we're able to, you know, when I'm in someone's records, you know, I might get an image of some kind of an ancestral pattern that we can sort of link to what the question is. You know, let's say, you know, I've got some let's say I've got some, you know, authority figures around men, right? I can actually see an image, maybe a scenario where there was a woman who was, this is kind of crazy, but I'm going to go there, who was like a madame in a brothel. And, you know, she had her, but she was the woman of the house, and she was actually very well respected, and she had her girls that she had to protect, but she also had the other side of it, the underbelly of it around authority in men, and how that was impacting, you know, how that impacts her now,
Yeah.
you know, in her life.
Wow.
So I'm able to like look at those scenarios and then bring them back to modern day times and how it's impacting certain areas of your life.
That's wonderful. And then once again, the reminder that once you have the records open and you're looking at something, and just the fact that you're in there in the energetic fields is making the shift, starting the shift to happen then.
Definitely.
That is so fascinating.
Right, because, you know, okay, so like, let's say, you know, addiction is another really good thing to take to the records, you know, like, so say someone has an addiction with alcohol. You know, sometimes I can go in and I could see kind of the roots of that, and I could look at the ancestral lineage and pattern of that. And, you know, oftentimes what comes up is, you know, so your masters, teachers, and loved ones are your keepers of your records, and
Yeah.
they're like your number one like cheerleader, like team, like rooting for you, and the bravery in which it takes for you to go into your soul and look at your issues from the level of your soul is like a very brave thing to do.
Wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that, but you're right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not for everybody, you know.
Right.
I mean, it's not, you know.
Yeah.
So they're always like number one, they're always super stoked when like people are like ready to like, you know,
They're here.
be with
Yes.
them. Yeah, honestly,
Exactly.
like,
That's cool.
That's super real. But then also, in the example of let's say, you know, someone's addiction, and like say someone having a problem with alcohol, you know, oftentimes just asking that question and being curious about it, it can actually start the healing within that whole lineage and within that ancestral pattern, because you're the first one who is starting to question that maybe I even have a problem.
Yes.
Or I've identified I have a problem, and this is how it holds me back in my life. What can I do to like start to like, you know, turn this around? So it actually has a ripple effect through timelines when you start to heal it from here.
That is absolutely fascinating.
right?
Oh my gosh.
I know. It's mind-blowing, right?
It is mind blowing.
It's pretty awesome.
I went to school and I wanted to be a geneticist for a long time, with genetics. And I'm fascinated with even in our DNA how things are carried on like that. But so if we're talking about, all right, let's just say like in the next 10 years, I bet that there's some sort of discovery about the DNA, the records coming together, creating who you are.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my
100%.
gosh.
Oh yeah, there's future records out there for sure.
Wow.
Which, yeah, that's true. So then, not only do we have records, like as humans, your pets have records. Your property has records, like your house has records, like your apartment here has an Akashic record. Your business has an Akashic record. So you can go into your records in any of those levels, and like I've given oftentimes I've gone into records of like my friends' pets and what's going on.
Oh, I'm totally having you come in and do Jack's records. Totally.
Oh, cool, awesome.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And I can also really see if you had a pet with an issue.
Yeah, right.
A lot of times the issue is the owner in our training, but
exactly.
if there's another issue that your pet had,
right.
it would be really fascinating to see in the records where that was. Wow.
Yep. Yeah, so you can go into, I know, right?
It's
so
mind
awesome.
is blown.
Yeah,
wow.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's pretty awesme for sure. Yeah, so, and it's funny, sometimes I forget, I'm always like, focus on my clients and focus on my, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's still this whole other, national monuments have records. So actually, Portland has records. Portland has its own Akashic records. Washington, D.C., the Vatican.
Our country.
Like, our
it
country.
would be really fascinating right now with what's going on with our country to see. Oh my goodness,
right.
I love this.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time. Is there anything else that you wanted to add we covered a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that I didn't even think we'd be covering.
Same here. Well, I'm always really interested in, this is such a powerful resource, and the thing there's nothing I would love more, and that I intend to do is to just share this skill with whoever is interested in sharing it. So at the first of the year, I'm going to be putting together a program, like a beginner course on teaching other people how to read their own records.
Love it.
So, to me, it's like, my gosh, why wouldn't you want to have like
another resource,
a complete, like a spiritual resource with like almost every single answer known to man, like at your fingertips whenever you want, anytime you want it.
Oh my goodness.
So.
Okay, so will the people be able to sign up on your website to get more information?
I'm still working out those.
Okay, well, don't worry about it right
details.
now, because I'm definitely having you come back and talk about other things. And the information for Jamie will be there, linked to her website, and if you want to schedule an appointment for her, will be in the write-up about this blogs or this podcast. So thank you so much.
AkashicRoots.com.
AkashicRoots.com.
Nice.
I love it.
Thank you
so
so
much. This was fun.
Amazing.
I love it.